Walter had always loved trains. Planes not so much. But this time his daughter insisted. It was her 50th birthday, and the whole family was gathering in Arizona. "Just a 2-hour flight," she said. "We'll pick you up at the airport." Easy. So at 72, Walter packed a lightweight suitcase, double-checked his cholesterol meds, and booked his first plane ticket in over a decade. He even printed the boarding pass at home, proud of himself for figuring out the online check-in. But standing barefoot in the airport security line, everything changed. At first, it was just a warm flush. Then, a wave of lightheadedness. His vision blurred slightly. A strange buzzing in his ears. By the time the TSA agent asked him to step aside, Walter couldn't remember what pocket he'd put his ID in, or what the agent had just asked him. "I'm sorry. I'm just a little dizzy," he muttered, blinking hard. The agent looked concerned. Walter had no idea his blood pressure had dropped, or that his blood sugar had spiked, or that the combination of a poor night's sleep, airport stress, and his usual pill timing had sent his nervous system into a panic. It wasn't a stroke. It wasn't dementia. But for 20 terrifying minutes, it looked like both. This wasn't bad luck. This was biology, and it happens all the time to seniors traveling without the right preparation. Here's the truth. After 70, your body handles travel completely differently than it did at 40 or 50. What used to be a minor inconvenience, a skipped meal, a missed pill, a late night, a tight seat, now affects memory, cognition, and circulation with far greater intensity. Most people never get warned. Their doctors might remind them to pack medications, but they rarely explain how travel impacts brain function, blood flow, and hormonal regulation, especially in older adults. The hidden dangers don't always appear in dramatic collapses. Sometimes, it's a creeping brain fog halfway through a flight. Other times, it's forgetfulness in a rental car lot, or feeling unusually anxious during boarding. These subtle signs are often dismissed, until they spiral into real medical emergencies. That moment at the airport, where Walter's confusion almost triggered a full security incident, could have been avoided with a few simple changes. But he had no idea. And neither do most seniors who haven't flown in years. So let's break this down. What actually happens inside the aging body during travel? Why does the brain misfire more easily in airports and airplanes? And what can you do, before you even pack your suitcase, to stay sharp, safe, and confident at any age? The answers start with your brain's fuel system, and why travel throws it off course faster than you might think. What happened to Walter wasn't just nerves. It was metabolic, and it started in his brain. You see, as we age, the brain becomes more sensitive to how it receives energy. In your 40s, the brain can switch between glucose and fat relatively easily. By the time you're 70, that flexibility starts to decline. And the modern travel environment? It pushes the brain's energy system to the brink. Think about it. Irregular meals, processed airport food, artificial lighting, sleep disruption, and overstimulation, all of it floods the body with stress hormones like cortisol. In seniors, that stress doesn't just trigger fatigue. It can directly impair cognitive function. But here's the key. The brain's fuel crisis isn't just about skipping lunch. It's about how glucose is processed, or misprocessed, in older adults. As insulin sensitivity declines with age, many seniors unknowingly experience glucose spikes followed by sudden crashes. These crashes don't just make you tired, they can cause confusion, dizziness, mood swings, even temporary memory loss. In a busy terminal, that can look a lot like dementia. Now layer on the fact that most travel days start early, often with coffee but no real breakfast. And if you're on blood pressure or diabetes meds, that's another layer of complexity, because some medications amplify the effects of low blood sugar or dehydration. Walter's confusion at the TSA line? Classic signs of what doctors sometimes call transient cognitive impairment, a temporary malfunction in brain performance, usually tied to fuel, stress, or circulation. So what can you do to protect your brain when you travel? Let's start with vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. A deficiency in B1 doesn't just cause fatigue. It can mimic the symptoms of dementia, brain fog, memory gaps, irritability, even poor coordination. And here's the kicker, B1 is easily depleted by stress, diuretics, alcohol, and high-carb meals, all common on travel days. Supplementing with thiamine, or better yet, benfotiamine, a fat-soluble form that crosses the blood-brain barrier, can make a dramatic difference in travel-related cognitive symptoms. Next, balance your brain fuel. The best travel breakfast isn't a muffin or a banana. It's healthy fat and protein. Think eggs, avocado, smoked salmon, or a small handful of walnuts. These stabilize blood sugar, provide long-lasting energy, and support ketone production, a cleaner fuel for the aging brain. Pack electrolyte packets, especially those with magnesium and potassium, and drink one before boarding. This helps protect against dehydration-induced confusion, which is extremely common in dry cabin air. And finally, avoid grazing on sugar and starch while in transit. Every candy bar or bag of pretzels adds to the brain's metabolic load and increases the risk of a crash mid-flight or mid-terminal. In short, fuel your brain before you leave the house. Think fat, salt, hydration, and thiamine. Travel isn't just hard on your body, it's hard on your neurons. But that's not the only threat seniors face at 30,000 feet. In the next section, we'll look at how circulation changes with age, and why sitting still on a plane for 3 hours can trigger more than just stiff legs. In some cases, it can be life-threatening. Walter didn't think twice about his aisle seat. He was relieved, actually, easier access to the bathroom. What he didn't know was that staying seated for over 2 hours without movement wasn't just uncomfortable. For someone over 70, it was dangerous. When your body ages, so do your blood vessels. The elasticity decreases. Blood flow slows. And when you combine that with extended periods of stillness, especially in a pressurized cabin, you create the perfect storm for circulatory trouble. It starts subtly. Swollen ankles. Tingling feet. A strange tightness in the calves. But in certain cases, especially in older adults, it can escalate into deep vein thrombosis, or DVT, a condition where blood clots form in the legs, often silently. If that clot travels, it can lead to a pulmonary embolism, which can be fatal. Here's what makes it worse. Airplanes are pressurized to simulate an altitude of about 8,000 feet. That means less oxygen per breath, which forces the cardiovascular system to work harder, especially in seniors with heart disease, high blood pressure, or a history of smoking. Even without clots, lower oxygen saturation can cause mild hypoxia, a state of oxygen deficiency that impacts memory, decision-making, and alertness. In other words, your brain and body are already under stress the moment you take your seat. And yet, nobody talks about this. So here's what you can do to reduce your risk and dramatically improve your comfort and clarity in the air. First, move every 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be a walk down the aisle. Even seated, you can do simple foot pumps. Point your toes forward and backward, roll your ankles, flex your calves. These movements encourage venous return, helping push blood back toward the heart. Second, wear graduated compression socks. Not just any tight socks, but ones specifically designed to increase circulation from the feet upward. These reduce swelling, lower DVT risk, and improve energy post-flight. Many seniors who use them say they arrive feeling lighter and clearer. Third, consider a small dose of magnesium threonate the night before travel. This specific form of magnesium crosses the blood-brain barrier, calming the nervous system and relaxing blood vessels, which supports better circulation and clearer thinking under pressure. It can also ease muscle cramps and tension, which often show up during long flights. And don't forget hydration. Cabin air is bone dry. Just a few hours without water can thicken the blood slightly, especially in seniors. Bring a refillable bottle and sip consistently. Add electrolytes once or twice during the flight for added support. A mix of sodium, potassium, and magnesium helps prevent dizziness and fatigue when you stand up after landing. Walter didn't know any of this. After landing, he spent the evening rubbing his sore calves, blaming it on just getting older. But the truth is, aging doesn't have to mean suffering, especially not preventable suffering. Because if you understand what's happening inside your body when you travel, you can intervene long before discomfort becomes danger. And there's one more system that travel throws into chaos: your hormonal rhythm, especially melatonin. It's not just about sleep. This tiny molecule plays a major role in memory, inflammation, and recovery, and travel can shut it down almost entirely. Let's take a closer look at what happens when melatonin vanishes, and what that means for your brain. Walter made it to Arizona. But that first night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the hotel ceiling. His body was tired, but his mind was wired. Thoughts moved in slow loops. He felt hot, then cold. His joints ached. He got up twice thinking he'd left the bathroom light on. He hadn't. This wasn't just jet lag. It was a melatonin crash, a hormonal shutdown almost no one prepares seniors for. Melatonin is often thought of as the sleep hormone, but that barely scratches the surface. In older adults, melatonin plays a key role in protecting the brain, immune system, and cardiovascular function. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and neuroprotective. It helps the brain clear waste at night, and it keeps your internal clock in sync. The problem is, melatonin naturally declines with age. By 70, most people are already producing significantly less, which is why sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented. Now combine that with air travel, bright airport lighting, irregular meal times, time zone shifts, and overstimulation all suppress melatonin even further. The result? You don't just lose sleep, you lose the brain's nightly cleanup crew. And over time, that adds up. There's even evidence linking chronic melatonin deficiency to increased risk of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and mild cognitive impairment. That's how important this little hormone is, and why travel can feel so disorienting, especially in the days afterward. So how can you protect your melatonin levels and restore your rhythm when you travel? Let's start with light. Melatonin is suppressed by bright light, especially blue light, and stimulated by darkness. When you fly, your exposure is completely out of sync. To reset, bring a sleep mask and wear it during flights, especially in the later part of the day. Avoid screens for at least an hour before bed, and dim your hotel lights early in the evening to encourage natural melatonin production. Second, use melatonin strategically not just as a sleep aid, but as a tool for neurological recovery. For seniors, a very low dose, often just 1 to 3 milligrams taken 1 hour before bedtime, can help restore circadian rhythm without grogginess. Some experts suggest even less, 0.3 milligrams may be enough. The goal is to mimic the body's own natural signal, not override it. Third, support your brain's ability to respond to melatonin. Omega-3 fats, especially DHA, enhance receptor sensitivity. So does magnesium, especially in the form of glycinate or threonate, both of which also calm the nervous system and aid in deep sleep. And finally, mind your meal timing. Eating late at night, especially carbs or alcohol, blunts melatonin production. Try to finish dinner at least 3 hours before sleep. If you need a light snack, choose something with fat and magnesium, like a few almonds, or a small slice of turkey. Walter didn't know any of this. He spent the night tossing and turning, then woke up groggy, irritable, and unfocused. He forgot the name of his grandson's friend. He misplaced his sunglasses twice. And for the first time that trip, he started to feel old. But what was happening wasn't aging, it was disruption. And with the right tools, it can be reversed. Because there's one more trap waiting for seniors on travel days, and it's hiding right in plain sight: airport food, blood sugar crashes, and medication timing gone wrong. Let's talk about how to eat and what to bring so your next travel day doesn't become a metabolic disaster. The next morning, Walter made a familiar mistake. He was still groggy, so he grabbed a blueberry muffin from the hotel breakfast bar, just to get something in his stomach. Washed it down with orange juice and coffee. It was easy, familiar, harmless, he thought. By the time they reached the sightseeing van, he felt strange. Light-headed. Tired but jumpy. His daughter noticed he was quiet. He seemed to lose the thread of conversations. When the guide gave directions, Walter asked her to repeat them twice. This wasn't sleep deprivation. It was a glucose trap, and it hits harder after 70 than most people realize. Here's what happened. The muffin and juice created a rapid blood sugar spike, followed by an equally sharp crash. For seniors with even mild insulin resistance, which most have, diagnosed or not, this triggers confusion, irritability, anxiety, and in some cases, even symptoms that mimic a mild stroke. And because Walter was still adjusting to a new time zone, his medication timing was off. He took his blood pressure pill without much water and hadn't eaten protein to stabilize absorption. That's a recipe for a dizzy spell, or worse. These small changes on their own might not be dramatic, but layered together sugar, dehydration, disrupted sleep, and medication mishandling, they set up a perfect storm for a medical incident. So let's break down exactly how to avoid this trap, starting with food. Rule 1. Skip airport carbs. Muffins, bagels, pretzels, and fruit juice all send your blood sugar soaring. The better option? A travel-friendly fat and protein combo. Think hard-boiled eggs, a handful of nuts, a pre-packed turkey wrap in a lettuce leaf, or even a small tin of wild-caught salmon. If you can't bring food, look for cheese, plain yogurt, or unsweetened nut butter at airport shops. Rule 2. Pair medications with intentional meals. Always take pills with a protein-rich snack or meal unless otherwise instructed. This helps stabilize absorption, reduce dizziness, and avoid gastrointestinal upset. And set alarms on your phone if time zone changes throw off your schedule, especially for heart, blood pressure, or glucose meds. Rule 3. Electrolytes matter more than caffeine. While coffee might feel like a travel essential, it can dehydrate you fast, especially in cabin air. Instead, carry electrolyte packets and mix one into water mid-flight. Look for blends with magnesium, potassium, and sodium, not just sugar and flavoring. These support cellular energy and reduce brain fog and muscle cramps. Rule 4. Carry a cognitive emergency kit. In one small pouch include a high-quality B-complex or benfotiamine capsule, a few walnuts or a square of dark chocolate for quick brain fuel, one packet of electrolytes, a low-dose melatonin tablet, your full list of medications and dosages on paper. This tiny toolkit can make all the difference if you begin to feel off during travel. Walter didn't have any of that with him. And by the time the group reached the historic site that morning, he was too drained to enjoy it. He sat on a bench in the shade, frustrated, embarrassed, wondering if maybe this was just what 72 felt like. But it wasn't age. It was biology reacting to a cascade of preventable stressors. And that brings us to the final truth no one tells you. You can still travel after 70, safely, joyfully, confidently. But you need a new kind of checklist. Not for clothes, but for your brain, your blood, and your body. Let's put it all together. Walter didn't go on the next day's tour. He stayed behind, drank tea on the porch, and watched the desert light shift across the mountains. His daughter brought him soup. His grandson showed him how to sync his watch to the new time zone. And slowly, his mind cleared. He hadn't had a stroke. He wasn't in decline. But he'd had a wake-up call, one he'd never forget. On the flight home, Walter did things differently. He skipped the snack cart, brought his own almonds, hard cheese, and electrolyte water. Stood up every half hour and stretched near the bathroom. Wore compression socks. Used a sleep mask. Took a tiny dose of melatonin and magnesium before bed that night. And he slept better than he had in weeks. That's the real secret. After 70, travel isn't off limits. It just demands a new strategy. A smarter one. One that respects the realities of an aging body without surrendering to them. So here it is, the Senior Smart Travel Checklist. Before you go, fuel up right, eat a protein and fat-rich breakfast. Avoid sugars and grains. Think eggs, avocado, nuts, or plain Greek yogurt. Hydrate with electrolytes. Start the day with a full glass of water plus electrolytes, especially potassium and magnesium. Pack a cognitive travel kit. O-benfotiamine or a B-complex with thiamine. O-magnesium threonate or glycinate. O-low-dose melatonin, 0.3 to 1 milligram. O-omega-3 capsules, high in DHA. O-emergency snacks, walnuts, dark chocolate, protein bar. O-printed medication list and timing guide. During travel, move every 30 minutes, even while seated, flex feet, roll ankles, stretch arms, breathe deeply. Use compression socks to reduce clot risk and post-travel fatigue. Avoid sugary snacks, skip the pretzels, granola bars, and juices. Choose nuts, cheese, or healthy fats. Watch the caffeine. Replace extra coffee with water plus electrolytes. It protects your brain from light. Wear a sleep mask or blue-blocking glasses, dim screens and overhead lights. When you arrive, eat early. Finish dinner at least 3 hours before bed to support natural melatonin release. Avoid late alcohol or sugar. Both disrupt sleep and memory formation. Take magnesium and melatonin 1 hour before bed to reset circadian rhythm. Walk after meals. Gentle movement improves blood flow, digestion, and helps you adjust to the new environment. Walter's second trip, a month later, was different. He flew to visit an old Navy buddy in Colorado. No incidents. No brain fog. No forgotten luggage. Just laughter, stories, and the satisfaction of feeling sharp and strong. Because travel doesn't have to get harder with age. It just has to get smarter. And now you know how. Not one doctor warned Walter what the airport would do to his body, how low melatonin, unstable blood sugar, tight leg veins, and a lack of thiamine would team up against him. But you're not flying blind anymore. You've got the tools. You've got the checklist. And the world is still waiting. If you've ever lived through something like this, please consider leaving a comment in the comments section. You might be the person whose experience helps another viewer realize they're not alone. A single comment from you could be the reason someone else decides to speak up or become alert about their health. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so that you are notified when our next video is live.